Annoying Kid is the 8th episode of the 7th season of Everybody Loves Raymond. This is directed by Zaks, and as always there will be spoilers from now as I go through the episode chronologically and share some thoughts. It's a great episode, it's good fun. I imagine for parents it can be quite relatable as well. It starts off with Ray and Debra with their friends, Lauren and Craig, played by Cheryl, Hines and Neil Williamson, and their son is playing with Ray and Debra's boys. This is Spencer, played by Buford. And we learn very early on that Spencer is not the nicest, most pleasant child. He's very hyperactive, he's very in your face, and definitely is quite a handful. As a viewer, I find him very entertaining. He has some brilliant facial expressions, and he certainly seems to be entertaining for Michael and Geoffrey. However, Ray clearly has a problem with this child. Debra doesn't seem to see the issue. And then it escalates when Spencer takes Ray's cannoli. And we do have some great dialogue between Spencer and Ray. It's a lot of fun to watch and feels, on the one hand, realistic, but I could also just never imagine talking to another person's child like that. But clearly Ray has had enough. And he's the only one who feels like that. We cut to some time later. We have Marie and Frank and Robert over at the house. And Lauren and Neil are also there with Spencer. And I feel like this scene has the most characters we've seen in any one scene in a very long time. It's a very, very busy scene. And that really adds to the chaos. And Ray is in the kitchen. And he tells Robert that this kid is annoying him. And Frank comes in and says, all kids are annoying, which I rather enjoyed. And then they realise that somebody had written Ray stinks on the fridge with the alphabet magnets. And Marie comes in and asks, what's the matter? To which Robert replies, Raymond stinks. And Marie's response to that, I really, really loved as well. And then they hear some banging from upstairs. So Ray goes upstairs because the kids are jumping on the beds. And it's also confirmed then that Spencer did write the note on the fridge. And Ray then ends up chasing the children. He falls over, he knocks the chair over, food goes everywhere. It's absolute chaos. He ends up outside in the garden, which we don't get to see that often. I feel like the last time we saw it was when the hamster died. I could be wrong, there might be another time. We don't see the garden that often. It's a nice place to have a swing set and things. It looks nice, it's a nice set. And then Spencer experiences a system failure, which basically means a grown-up has given him into trouble, he doesn't want to listen, so he shuts his system down. On the one hand, it's a good tactic for self-preservation, but at the same time, it's just a cop-out. And it was a little bit annoying. Funny to look at in the episode, but in real life, it would be very annoying. And obviously, the rest of the grown-ups come out. Well, Debra and Spencer's parents come out, and Spencer said that Ray yelled at him, which, yeah, maybe kind of. He certainly was not speaking in a very quiet voice. And then Lauren happens to say something about Ray and Debra's kids and just about how their behaviours are different. Maybe the parenting techniques are different. And that's when things get awkward. And up until that point, it does seem like the parents were oblivious to Spencer's behaviour. But then Spencer lashes out, and I think it becomes obvious then that actually his parents know that his behaviour is unacceptable, but it's so stressful and difficult to deal with that they try something alternative instead, and that's basically just letting him do what he wants. Spencer stamps on his father's foot, and he runs out, and we have a nice moment between Ray and Debra where they're united front again, and it was really nice to see. And while I don't like seeing that Spencer was horrible to his own parents, it is kind of nice to see that his parents weren't just accepting the behaviour, it's more so that they're almost scared to deal with it, so they've buried their head in the sand. Not that that's the right approach, but I feel like, for me at least, that's better than them not seeing a problem at all and thinking that Spencer is a perfect little angel and thinking that everything he does is absolutely perfect and innocent. So I kind of like that we get to see that actually maybe his parents do realise there's an issue. They just don't know how to approach it, so they choose to not approach it. Again, not ideal, but in terms of that or just thinking he's perfect, it's the lesser of two evils. And then we end the episode with Marie going to the fridge in her house and realising somebody has written Marie stinks on the fridge in the magnets, and of course that somebody was Frank. And it's a lot of fun. It was a really fun way to end the episode. As I said, I imagine it's quite relatable. I imagine there are a lot of parents who are friends with a parent of a child, maybe a child at the same school, and that child is maybe not the best, maybe their behaviour is not the best, but how do you really approach that? Do you cut off friendship with the parents because you don't want to be around the child? I imagine it's quite a complicated situation, so there could be an element of relatability here. I think it's a very funny episode. I think it has a lot to offer. I think it's a great look at how people perceive children's behaviours in different ways. Obviously, Frank taking it to the extreme by saying all children are annoying. I think Ray is the one who had the right attitude here, but maybe his approach wasn't the best. But in terms of the episode, it definitely was. It was thoroughly enjoyable, had a lot of fun with it. Definitely a really a straightforward episode with no issues. Nobody behaved unacceptably, which tends to happen. I feel like at least once in most Everybody Loves Raymond episodes, at least one character will do or say something that I just do not agree with. And that didn't really seem to be the case here. Maybe Debra not realising that Spencer was problematic was a bit of an issue, but I think it was just that she hadn't quite been exposed to his behaviour, as much as Ray had. So I don't have an issue with that. I just think Debra hadn't yet realised it. She hadn't quite got to where Ray was, but ultimately she did. And at the end of the day, Annoying Kid is a pretty brilliant episode of Everybody Loves Raymond.